Hello, my name is Lorna. I am a tutor for Chrysalis and a psychotherapist. And today I'm going to be taking you through part of Component 7, and specifically this is Module 12, which is the final module of your course. So today we are going to be having some reflections and thinking about what it means to be the experienced therapist, thinking about endings, bringing back some of those models that we've looked at in relation to yourself. So, for example, the Gestalt cycle of awareness. A little bit of time to consider next steps. Okay, so what does it mean to become the experienced therapist? You might at this point already know what direction you want to go in. You may decide that there are specific fields you would like to work within, specialisms. You might be moving on already perhaps to specialist training. You might be taking some time to think about it. You may be looking to gain experience in a different direction. So last module we explored some different areas that you can work within. So public sector, employment and educational sectors, the third sector, private practice. And we recognise that there are options for a combination of several, if you wish to, and a flexible working pattern, if that's your preference. You've got the option to consider new opportunities as they come along. You may be looking at voluntary or paid employment or a combination of both. And it's important to recognise that opportunities can change quickly as well as the counselling profession changes. So, for example, over the past 10 years or so, there's been more focus on IAPT, which is improving access to psychological therapies. And this is now beginning to change its focus, with there's more focus on different aspects of therapy. And indeed, at this time, there is more focus being put onto CYP counselling, working with children and young people. So, as you move towards your qualification, then you're moving towards becoming, hopefully, an accredited therapist. What does that actually mean? What does it mean to be accredited? What does accreditation mean? Well, accreditation is something that is provided by the professional registers. And as you know, this course is accredited by the National Counselling Society. So the National Counselling Society accreditation means that you have reached and maintained certain standards of qualification, the amount of training that you've had, your experience, your ethical awareness, and your professionalism. Accreditation gives confidence to the public, gives confidence to employers and organisations about your professional practice. Not every counselling course is accredited, and not every counsellor reaches accredited status. Your Level 5 qualification will mean that you can apply to join the NCS register as an accredited member, and NCS members can also work towards professional accredited status, which is a higher level of accreditation. So what's your obligations to be part of an accredited register? How does this give the public and employers confidence in you? Well, your obligations are that, first of all, you have your qualification. So you cannot become an accredited member without demonstrating, providing proof that you have your qualification. You need to keep your membership in force, keep it in good standing. You need to demonstrate that you have professional indemnity insurance in place. You need to have an enhanced DBS check. You need to maintain certain levels of continuing development. So there are levels of supervision that you need to ensure that you maintain. That will be a certain number of supervision hours per year as a minimum. And then the number of supervision hours that you accrue needs to correspond with the amount of client work that you're doing. So it's quite common, for example, for therapists to have more than one supervisor and sometimes to have more supervision sessions than they would regularly have as their work demands. Maintain levels of CPD, continuing professional development, ensuring that you continue to keep your skills good, to keep your knowledge up to date, to keep learning new things, and to develop as a practitioner alongside the development of the approaches themselves, alongside the development of counselling itself. So going into practice, whether that is through employment or whether that is volunteering or whether that is a private practice, means that you need to consider what the work of counselling involves. So we have been putting a lot of focus on the actual work with the client, the sessions with the clients. But you also need to recognise that you need to manage your time effectively, particularly if you are working part-time and have other responsibilities or other work as well. You need to ensure that you can carry out and maintain all of the work of counselling, that is not only the sessions but is the other aspects as well. So remember that there are more than client hours to the profession of counselling. And burnout is quite common within the helping professions as we try to take on too much and meet many demands. So managing your time is very important, and maintaining your practice, private or employed, will take a good proportion of your time alongside those counselling sessions. And remember as well that unlike some other types of employment or occupations, the therapy space is a unique space. It's just for your client and you. There is no space within that session for anything else. There is no space to take inquiries, to take phone calls, to read emails, to read messages, to do any marketing of your practice. The client hour is solely and exclusively the client hour. So the other tasks that you need to be making time for are things like, on behalf of the client, arranging appointments, answering questions from potential clients, following up anything that you've offered, such as relaxation recordings or session summaries for clients, writing up your notes. Other tasks might be reporting, for example, to your line manager, following up referrals or making referrals to other practitioners, supervision, peer vision, supervising others if you're in group supervision. In terms of finances, you may need to be invoicing, collecting fees, filing tax returns, doing accounts, paying room charges and all the other expenses that you have for your business. General tasks, booking treatment rooms, maintaining your treatment room, creating leaflets, advertising, social media, ensuring you have all the forms and contracts and other stationery that you need. So there is a fair bit to do, as well as actually working in session with the clients. Working with others will mean that you will have contact with other people as well as clients. And you may have regular contact with other professions, both within the counselling profession and outside of it. So, and this might be the case whether you're in employment or whether you are in private practice. And so when liaising with others, you're still needing to uphold the principles of good practice and the values of the counselling profession. You have a responsibility towards yourself and the profession to act professionally, to not bring the profession into disrepute. So client-related contact with others might include, for example, referring a client for a specific service, or consulting with other professionals about a client who may be other therapists like yourself, or maybe in other professions entirely. You might need to be providing reports to a third party about a client. You may need to provide evidence for court. You may be writing reports on behalf of clients, or needing to make contact in certain circumstances with a client's family. You may be attending a case conference about your client. So, other contacts with others, contact with your team at work, contact with your supervisor, giving presentations, giving training or workshops, attending conferences and seminars, being on a committee, presenting information to the media. So all of these and more are related to your therapy work. So lots to think about there, okay? And lots to think about in terms of, well, what approach are you taking here? So what approach are you taking as a therapist? What therapist are you becoming? Because clearly you will be the therapist who you are meant to be. You will be yourself. We spend a great deal of time actually focusing on ensuring that we can support people to become the person who they are. And we are no different to that. We will do the work in the best way for us, upholding our values, but also upholding the values of our profession and of our accreditation. So remember that your learning on this course has been learning the pluralistic approach. The pluralistic approach, remember, is the work of Cooper and MacLeod and presents an overall framework within which the methods and approaches fit. To summarise the pluralistic approach, remember that it says that different approaches have something to offer different clients. Clients like structure and to have goals to work towards. Different clients want and need different things at different times. Feedback is important, and continuing dialogue keeps things moving in a good direction. If we want to know what a client wants, we should ask them. Collaboration is best in case formulation, in tasks, and in strategies. And identifying strengths and resources is as important as identifying issues and difficulties. And remember as well that the pluralistic approach is a contemporary approach. It's still being developed. Both Cooper and MacLeod are active researchers, lecturers, and therapists. They are working within the profession. They are developing, they are continuing to assess research that is coming through of how therapy needs to develop. The pluralistic approach is a modern approach, a contemporary approach, and it responds to feedback. Responds to feedback both in practice as well as in research and as well as in theory. That's an interesting thing to think about, isn't it? Because perhaps you need to recognise now that you are part, or can be part, of the development of counselling. What you discover, how you work, can be part of the continuing development of counselling, theory and practice. The models you've learned on this course continue to be developed. Therapy is a profession which continues to learn from those who practice it. That's you. Pluralism is a contemporary approach, still in development, and will continue to do so as you develop your experience and skills. So you have a responsibility here to keep up to date. CPD, continue with your reading, get the new editions of your handbooks and your textbooks, and to ensure that you continue to develop alongside. Pluralism values evidence to demonstrate what works in therapy. And research has clearly told us that no one approach is superior to others. This teaches us to remain flexible, curious, and open to new findings. And this evidence-based approach also teaches us to be questioning and to look for more than anecdotal evidence or experience or the opinion of those who are not experts. And that includes ourselves as well. To not just get caught up in the trap of, well, I think this works because it seems to work for a few of my clients, but to actually look at the research, the evidence, and the writings of contemporary theorists and practitioners. So, an interesting thought there, that you can be part of the development of counselling. And as we move towards the end of this course and the new opportunities that are opening up for you now, let's return to Pearl's cycle. Cycle of awareness, cycle of growth, cycle of completion. Remember this from previous modules. This cycle, remember, relates to healthy growth, change, and contribution. And if you recall, Pearl's recognises that there can be many cycles of awareness that are actually operating side by side, catching our awareness as necessary. Cycles can be microscopic. Cycles of awareness can be concerned with whether we suddenly start to find within us we have a sensation of perhaps a thirst. We're thirsty. And then to find that gradually that moves into an awareness of, yes, this sensation is actually one of thirst. And then we can go through a microscopic process of actually doing something about that. We're mobilized. We find ourselves moving to the kitchen. We find ourselves pouring that glass of water. We find ourselves actually making contact with that sensation and actually quenching our thirst. And we find ourselves being satisfied that now we are no longer thirsty, we are satisfied. And then that awareness withdraws because we no longer need it. And then we can become aware of new sensations, new focus of awareness, new contact that we can make. So that might be an example of a microscopic cycle. But macroscopic cycles exist as well. And these can be much longer term, perhaps even a lifetime. And cycles that can be interrupted at different stages for different reasons and so on, or perhaps not, but perhaps each stage takes longer. An example of a macroscopic cycle would be your counselling training on this course, perhaps. Your work on this course is an example of your creative expression, your research, your learning, your writing, your practical work with colleagues, volunteers and clients. The satisfaction phase might relate to completing this course. The cycle would propose that satisfaction is necessary before withdrawal to allow the next phase in your development to fully enter your awareness. For Pearls, finishing business is necessary for the flow of healthy experience. So it's worth just considering where you are on this cycle. It's like moving towards satisfaction, still have more to do, still have some assignments to complete, but allowing yourself to move towards that point of satisfaction and to give yourself some time and some space to really feel it. To not just rush into what you need to be doing next, perhaps, although that's always good to have that plan in place, but to allow yourself some time to congratulate yourself for all your hard work, for everything that you have done and achieved over the past few years. To really feel that before you move on. And then when that feels complete, allowing that process of withdrawal, it's like, okay, the course is complete. Now this opens new possibilities. Now I can begin to discover perhaps those little seeds inside which are new ideas, the next step, where you want to take this. So, at this point, this module, be bringing closure. Closure in the way that works for you, works for your colleagues, your peers, your group as a whole. Your group will have its own way of bringing closure to the time that you've been working together, and you'll take time in this module to do that. From Chrysalis, we say thank you. Your satisfaction as a Chrysalis student is very important to us, and we hope you felt supported and inspired and informed throughout the time you've been studying with us. And of course, we wish you all the very best for the future.